this computer. So tonight's session, we're going to be talking about how your mind influences your health. And it's an important topic. And next week, we're going to kind of carry on with some more how what we eat influences our mind. And, they're all kind of connected together. In fact, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine are connected together. So before we carry on any further, it looks like there's a couple new names, and we just love to hear how you found out about the classes and, what your thoughts are in terms of your hopes of what you might get out of them. And that helps others be able to kind of support what you might need, and kind of keeps the classes interesting. So is there anybody willing to kind of unmute, and you could hold your hand up? I can see everybody in the group right now who has their camera on anyway. If you don't have your camera on, you could unmute and I'll kind of put you in order. But anyone new, this the first time class for anybody? And how you found out? Maybe everybody's been here before.
I'll go.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you.
I'm new-ish. I've been getting the emails from you guys for a while, but usually work a night shift, so I'm not always able to attend. But I'm recovering from shoulder surgery, so I'm taking my opportunities to attend these courses. And I'm just fascinated by functional nutrition, lifestyle medicine. I recently graduated from a health coaching program. So I'm loving how everything is connected with everything else in our life. We can't just single out one thing and hope to fix it and it'll fix everything for us. So I'm loving that you guys are putting on these courses, and it just gives me more fuel for my fire. So thank you.
Great.
Well,
love to hear that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing and welcome. And
Thank you.
we look forward to having some fun with everyone tonight as we share information. Anybody else care to chime in and how you found out about the classes and what you might like to gain? I know there are a couple new people. You can just unmute, or you can raise your hand, or you can write something in the chat, I suspect.
Well, I have
Go ahead,
been,
Cindy.
yeah, I've been following for a while, but I haven't been in the Zoom class for maybe years. Seems like. But I love the topic that you posted about for tonight. I've just been noticing in my life how much when I'm stressed, my food choices are different versus when I'm not experiencing stress. And so, yeah, I'm just super aware of that right now. I happen to be in a point in my life where my stress is extremely low compared to what it's been. And I cannot believe what a difference it makes in my ability to pass on foods that I shouldn't be eating and take the time to make foods that I should be eating. So.
Great. Well, welcome, and glad that to hear that you're kind of following along outside the classes, and you come to the ones that you like, and that's the purpose. We try to make this available so it works for different people in different ways. So anyway, thanks for sharing. Anyone else new to the classes? I see the little dog down there. It's Mary Lee. That's a cute little dog who's attending our classes now. I like that. And Marcy says, coming in from Pennsylvania. Wow. appreciative of the website and work. Glad to have you, it's getting late out in Pennsylvania. I think it's probably close to 10 o'clock?
It is. It is. I'm Sean's mom, Sean Egglestone's mom.
Oh, Marcy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been here before. I just don't always make the class because
Well-
it's late.
Well, thanks for sharing that you're from that far out. It's kind of probably puts a smile on other people's faces who are in the room also, like, it's becoming not just a local phenomenon. And that's what our hope is that we actually change how people look at gaining their health. And that we change our sick care system to a healthcare system. That's our ultimate goal here.
Yeah.
So that's why we're kind of going over these various topics. Anyone else?
We're kind of in a mental health theme right now. Last week I did a class on food addiction and behavior change, which if you missed that class last week, it's recorded up on the website. So you can go to livelifestylemedicine.com and watch that if you missed it. And then, the next 3 weeks are counting this week are all mind and health. And because it's just as important to kind of pay attention to that area as well as the nutrition aspect.
We'll see if there's one more person who wants to chime in. Fritz.
Yeah, hi, Charlie. So this is Fritz and Jen, and Scott might remember us from way back.
6 years ago.
6 years ago in
Absolutely.
January, we attended Scott's class and been following the food plan sort of. So and saw the topic tonight, and I can really relate to the idea of eating poorly when under stress. So glad that we're here tonight, and it's good to see all of you.
Nice to see you, Fritz.
Nice to have you back, and thanks for coming, and we'll plan to have some fun with you tonight.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. So with that said, unless someone else wants to really chime in here, we're good with that. And if you choose not to, it's okay. I see Dr. Blake is here tonight. Welcome from Idaho. Love to see you. And tonight we're going to be having some fun with you at Mind and Health.
Okay. Sorry I'm late. I was like looking for the link and then I'm like, just go to the website. Okay, found it. Took me a minute.
Well, Scott's done a good job with the website, so you can figure it out ultimately. So welcome, glad to have you. All right. We've been just kind of having introductions and stuff, and that usually goes on for the first 5 to 10 minutes, most sessions. And so we're ready to get started with tonight's session. And for those of you who get sleepy pretty quickly, and an hour is a little long for you, an hour and 15 minutes or half, I want to give you the quick summary so that, you can have like maybe 5 sentences, you have the message, and then you can leave or fall asleep or whatever you choose to do afterward. We will try to make it interesting for the rest of the hour or hour and a half we're here. But the 5 points that I want to kind of give you tonight are: number one, your mind can determine whether you're healthy or not. It has a huge influence on your health. Positive thoughts will promote your health, and do not postpone joy. Be mindful by practicing techniques that work best for you, and get rid of the junk in your brain to lead the happiest and healthiest life. That's the short summary. And now the title is, Can Our Minds Determine Our Health? Another title might be is Get the Junk Out of the Trunk. You know, we all have cars, and if you stuff your trunk with a bunch of weight, you don't get as good a gas mileage. And the same thing happens when you stuff your brain with a lot of extraneous, weighty material that interferes with your happiness and joy. It, doesn't give you the best chance for having the best life, to thrive in the best way. So I want to start out with a little example for you all to kind of let you know that we're all kind of like Pavlov's dogs in a way. And so I'm going to do an experiment with you. I can see some of you, and I can't see a lot of you, but it doesn't matter. I'm putting my hand out, and I'd like you to put your hand out, and I'm going to take one of those little lemon drops. I never am going to give you sugar again, but you know those lemon drops that have that sugar coating on them? I'm going to place them right in your hand virtually here, okay? We don't have that many people, only about 28, so I can kind of get these lemon drops into the palm of your hand. Now, if you're holding the palm of your hand up, that lemon drop is rolling around. I want you to take your finger and roll that lemon drop a little bit on the palm of your hand, and you feel the sugar that's kind of rolling around on the palm of your hand. Okay, you can stop. Now I want you to actually grab that lemon drop with that sugar coating and put it on your tongue. Now, I want you to savor the flavor. What is the first flavor that comes to your mind? Is it sweet from that sugar coating, from that lemon drop? A little sweet, maybe a lot. And then the next thing is you know that lemony flavor that you get when it starts dissolving in your mouth? Now, I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you right now have your mouths watering? It's just like Pavlov's dog. You know, there was no lemon drop anywhere in any of our hands, and yet our saliva is flowing. Our minds can perform magic through our thought processes. And if that doesn't kind of encourage you along to think, wow, maybe there is something to our mind, even though we don't give it a whole lot of thought. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the placebo effect. And so I want to take you to a study. I want to take you to this study in which people have torn meniscus of their knee. So they did a study in Canada, and I have the reference here for anybody who's interested in it. And in this study, they took two groups of people. One group, they had similar kind of defects in the meniscus, the cartilage that sits between the long bones of your leg. You know, it's at your knee and it's kind of acts like a cushion in between. And if it gets a little tear in it, traditionally we've gone in, or the orthopedic doctors have gone in and either repaired that or actually removed a segment. Well, what they did with these two groups, one group went in, they took them into surgery, they did the complete surgery like they normally would do, and they sewed them up. The second group of individuals went into the operating room, they made a cut in the exact same place they would normally make it. They did no surgery, but sewed it right back up so that the patient had the same scar in both groups, but they didn't know whether they had the meniscus removed or repaired, or whether nothing was done. So what do you think the outcome was after about a year? In pain, ability to get around? Anybody guess?
About even?
Yeah, I was actually identical. So you say, wow, isn't the surgery supposed to really make a difference? Well, we would think so, but the placebo effect is very powerful. So I don't know whether they did physical therapy with both groups, but they did the same thing after the surgery with either groups, whether they had PT or they didn't have PT, it would have been identical, both groups. The only difference was one group, they cut them open, did nothing except sew them back up. So the patient believed that they had a fix by their doctor. Okay, that's one interesting study. There's another interesting study, which I think you'll kind of find fascinating. This was a group in which they took individuals, couples, and they took the first group of couples they went into the psychologist, and the psychologist says, okay, today we're going to be talking about when you first got together, what kind of fun things did you do? What were your feelings? What went on in your life? What kind of activities did you do? Was it exciting? You know, what was really great about it? And so the couples would chat back and forth, and they did this for about half an hour. And then at the end, they were done. And they weren't quite done because they took an instrument and they took a biopsy out of the people's thorax, out of their chest. And they wanted to see how long it would take that to heal. Well, they saw how long it took to heal. Then the next group of people were maybe the same participants. They had them talk about in the next session, several weeks later, they had them talk about the negative things in their life. What was troubling them? When they had their last fight? What were their feelings? You know, how were they thinking? So it was kind of a negative kind of thought process session that went on for the same length of time. They took the biopsy out of their chest and they saw how long it takes for those people to heal. So anyone want to take a guess as to the healing?
Twice as long?
Pretty close, 30 to 40% longer healing in the couples that were discussing the negative aspects of their relationships, focusing, dwelling on those negative aspects. You know, I'm trying to plant a few seeds for you to be thinking about what your thought processes are throughout the day, how much you focus on the negative aspects, not only about, you know, yourself, but the things around you, and how much joy you're really actually getting in your life. And the last thing I want to tell you is about a grandmother who I met in Roseburg a few years ago. And she was one of the class members. And she told me she had trouble walking. It was hard for her to go up and down steps. She had arthritis and her life was not really going all that great. But she told me she went to the fish ladder. In Roseburg, they have this ladder where the fish kind of swim upstream through a dam. And you can see these fish. It's pretty interesting, actually. But to get to that glass wall where the fish are floating by, swimming by, you have to walk down 100 steps. Well, her grandchild said, "Grandma, I'd like to see the fish in the fish ladder." And this woman said to herself, "I don't know if I can do that. I can barely get up and down steps." She went down 100 steps with her grandson, came back up 100 steps because her grandson, she wanted to be able to be with him and do what he wanted to do. That was a real mind over matter situation. Now, I want to tell you one more mind over matter situation that I personally had. I've been challenging medical students for a number of years now to plank. I challenge them to a plank to let them know that eating a healthy diet and exercising regularly is the path to real health. And so I had gotten up to a 6-minute plank about, I don't know, 5 years ago. And then last year, actually it was the year before, I did another plank and I got up to 8 minutes. Why did I get to 8 minutes when I could barely do 6 minutes? The reason why is because I had a point to prove. Well, this year I had another point to prove. I had the first year medical students, and I challenged the whole class, bring your strongest, healthiest of your classmates. And I'm challenging at 5 o'clock today. I should show the video. I'm challenging you to a video or to a plank challenge. And so they started out with 14 or 15 of their classmates. Half the class showed up to cheer on the classmates compared to this old dinosaur. And at about 9 minutes, I was shaking and I was sweating, and there was a girl down on the floor that looked like she was going to go forever, but she started shaking and dropped out at 9.5 minutes. There were 2 more students who were planking, and I could not see what they were doing, but they told me, "There's 2 more, Dr. Ross." And I said to myself, I am not stopping. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care what the issue. This is a mind over matter situation. You've got a point to prove, and you do not stop. So I waited till 10.5 minutes where one of the last dropped out. And then at 11 minutes, there was moaning and groaning, and the last guy dropped. And I said to myself, I still have a point. And I waited 15 more seconds to make the point that how I eat, how I move is so important that an old 75-year-old dinosaur can take on these young buck first-year medical students. The clapping was, I can almost still hear it. Your mind can make such a difference in your life. There is no way that I would ever have done an 11-minute, 15-second plank without me having a reason, a goal, a why. You know, Scott talks about the why all the time. And focusing on your why you choose to do things, why you get up in the morning. It's so important to your overall health. I've got a reason every morning to try to help someone new. Who am I going to meet today? It could be the person who's coming to, I don't know, clean the windows. Believe it or not. The plumber who comes to our house, they get an earful about how a healthy diet is going to improve their life. They get my card. I tell them we'll talk for free. I ask them to go online. This is so important. That's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this, because I see the benefits from people. Okay, I think enough of that said. I want to talk next about stress. And before we talk about stress, I want to teach you something about stress, because it's not just listening to me talk. This has to be something that you get engaged a little bit with the conversation. So you have your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight system. And that is, prepares you for danger. You either run or you fight. And what do you need to run or fight? You need energy. So your body kicks out cortisone to increase the sugar so you have more energy. And your body kicks out adrenaline, makes your heart pump faster and harder and raises your blood pressure a little bit. You're ready for battle or for running. But over time, if that stays chronically like that, it leads to inflammation and leads to ill health. So you need to have some break to that. The break is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the sympathetic nervous system that you can kind of call into action with your breathing. So when you're ready to fight or run, you need to breathe deep, fast, heavy. But the reverse of that is true if you want to calm yourself down. So what you want to do is you want to exhale in a more lengthy time than what you normally would. So let's take 3 breaths. We're going to take the first breath into a count of 4. Then we're going to kind of let that out for a little longer count. And then we're going to take another breath. And then the last breath, we're going to kind of let our shoulders relax. So let's do this together. First breath in for 4 seconds. 4 and out. Keep going. All right, breath in and out. And last breath in and out. And let your shoulders just drop. That is how I've learned to relax when I have a busy day and, I just can't get everything done. I'm kind of feeling a little tense and stressed out. I take those deep breaths. When I was in practice, I would do that before I'd go in to see a patient, take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. I used to do 3, then I trained myself to be able to get calm with 1 breath. So you can train yourself in breathing. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Anybody have anything to say before I move on from here? Because I've been talking quite a bit, and I do want these classes to be for you. So I'm looking to see, boy, there's a lot of pictures of people and things. Anybody have anything they want to add before we go on? Don't be shy. Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
Okay, well, I think you're right on. I think it is very important to keep your stress levels down, to breathe. I've done these breathing exercises myself, and I know how important it is. And I think that if you get yourself in a stressful situation, and it doesn't matter what the stress is, I mean, it can be, what am I going to wear today? Oh my gosh, what am I going to wear?
Yes.
It can be something as simple as that. But if you don't know how to calm yourself down, it's even worse. I think you're right on.
Thank you. I try to be right as often as I can. Okay, let's go on to, I'm going to share my screen and we'll be back and you'll have time to do more questioning here in a moment. Okay, so we're sharing the screen and we're good there. Now let me go over to I don't really like PowerPoints too much, as most of you know. They're kind of boring. So I kind of like to slide on through these, so to speak, pretty quickly. And I must tell you, anxiety and depression are so common in so many of the people I have seen and dealt with, not only in family medicine, but in emergency medicine. About 8 out of 10 of the patients had some sort of underlying stress-related problem leading to their headache or chest pain or belly pain or whatever it might be. And same way with lifestyle medicine. This is what people used to tell me. I'm going out of my mind. I'm always tired without energy. Sounds a little like long COVID. I just can't seem to get motivated to do what I want. And I'm depressed or anxious. Not everybody comes up with those statements, but let me tell you, a lot do. You're not alone if you have any of these thoughts. Anxiety and depression are really common. Anxiety is more common. 1 in 5 US adults experience some sort of mental illness, and anxiety is right at the top with about 20%, 19% of our population experiencing that. It's a huge issue that we should really address. What leads to anxiety, depression? It can be chronic stress, and what's stressful for one person may not be stressful for another. We understand that. It's your perception that the workload or tasks are just not achievable. If they're achievable, then it becomes a challenge rather than stress in your life. So again, what's stressful for you may not be stressful for someone else. But if you're under a lot of stress and you're not being able to deal with it very well, there are some signs that can happen or occur. You can become agitated. There's hopelessness, self-neglect, personality changes, and withdrawal. Some of you may have experienced this in your own life. There's some physical symptoms you can get: dry mouth, a pounding heart, difficulty breathing, stomach upset, headache, frequent urination, sweating palms, tight muscles that may cause pain or trembling, backache, fatigue, dizziness. The list goes on and on. This is not comprehensive. Just about every system can be involved with stress. So your emotions and feelings are really important, and they can be altered. You can feel tense and irritable, develop anger or sadness or worry, and feel excessively tired. Again, I'm kind of just skipping through these so we can kind of talk about it over time. Changes in behavior like too much or too little sleep, eating too much or too little. That's a common one. We all know that. We might call it food addiction, but maybe it's stress. Sex too much, too little, drinking alcohol, using drugs. Those all can be behavior changes that are caused by stress that you have not learned to call a friend. And then the effects that it has on our health: feeling helpless or hopeless, remembering things, hard to concentrate, harder to look on the bright side. I have a list here that I want to share with you about some conditions that you may find the health effects of chronic stress. I would just want to read a little bit, a few of these, and see if any of these hit home to you. Health effects on chronic stress: impaired immune function. What does that mean? It means you're more prone to getting ill, maybe developing autoimmune disorder. Inflammation. I think we've talked about that enough that most of you know that chronic inflammation leads to a number of chronic illnesses in our life. Those of you who are concerned about osteoporosis or osteopenia, decreased bone density with chronic stress, problems with memory, increased appetite, weight gain, abdominal fat disposition, insulin resistance, and that those of you who have diabetes have probably heard that those term over and over again. Increased glucose, cholesterol, and triglycerides, increased blood clotting. You know, that may sound like that's beneficial. If you're bleeding, you want to clot, but you don't want to have blood clotting to the point where you have increased risk of stroke and heart attack. Impaired wound healing, which we talked about in that one example. Poor sleep, pain and fatigue, poor mood, adoption of less healthy habits, decreased longevity. That's the telomeres shortening. Those are your chromosomes, which shorten as you age. You can actually lengthen them by making healthier choices and live longer. And the etiology of many chronic diseases like hypertension, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. So, how you think about stress? Many of us have this kind of, we ruminate and worry. When I was in medical school, and I see it in a number of medical students, when they see a problem in a patient, they're kind of concerned that they might have the problem. I thought I had cancer in my legs because I had these fat lipomas on the lateral aspects of both of my thighs when I was in medical school. I was kind of worried that I was suffering from cancer undiagnosed. I finally found one patient in my 47 years of practice that had the exact same feel, and they had been heavier when they were young also. Mark Twain said, "I've suffered horrible events, many of which have never occurred." So in other words, we think, oh, we're having a heart attack and it's reflux, of acid into our stomach. Or we have chest wall strain and we think that we have some sort of pulmonary embolism. We have a strain in our calf. We have a blood clot in our leg. We worry about a lot of things in this world. So, what can we do about stress? There's a number of things, and we want to talk about those. But before we talk about that, I want to stop the share and go back to the room because I've talked more than enough. My time limit's about 10 minutes. And okay, enough. I know you like to talk, but people can only listen for so long. So let's have a question or two about either the stress you've seen in others, what you've done to fix the stress in yourself, what effect it's had on your life. Anybody care to share? Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
Mute. Okay. I think it's important to eat whole foods plant-based because I think, I believe that as you eat whole foods plant-based, without the unprocessed foods, without those oily foods, without your body just naturally calms down. And I think it's important that we do eat whole foods. I mean, if we eat whole foods, we won't have the hypertension, the diabetes, the heart disease, the myriad of other diseases that are out there. And I just think it's I love eating whole foods. It's just, I think it's a calming experience.
You're ready to teach the classes. I'm going to step aside and let you take over my next session, perhaps.
No.
Very well said. I love it. Okay, Trouty. Unmute yourself first.
Most of the time I'm on a whole food diet.
Yep.
And I can tell you, I can sleep like a baby now, which normally I could never do that. There is every once in a while a day between it that I sleep very little, but then in the afternoon I take a nap and I'm as good as ever, you know. So before I could not sleep and the doctor would get me sleeping pills and it was getting worse and worse. And I said, this affects my my brain. I won't do that anymore. I'm going to go to bed at a certain time. Even if I go a little later, now my brain is set to go to sleep, and I don't have to worry, and I have no anxiety about it. It's wonderful.
Now, you've come to a few classes, so kudos to you for hanging in there. I know initially a couple years ago when you started, it was kind of difficult at times, and you had quite a few questions, which we, you know, tap danced around as best as we could to try to get you to understand. And you've come such a long way, so congratulations to you, Travi.
Thank you.
Who else in the room has something they care to share? It doesn't have to be on this topic particularly.
Fritz has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie.
Okay, Fritz.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between distress and eustress and how those two types of stresses affect the body?
Yeah, so there's eustress, there's eustress, and there is distress. The distress is the overwhelming stress. The eustress is a good stress, which is like the stress is not overwhelming, so it becomes kind of a challenge. And I think the eustress is sort of, I don't know, Scott, neutral or whatever. It's, I don't think it's bad or good.
I haven't necessarily heard those terms other than distress. So
I have my book downstairs, which talks about those various terms, and I'm going to have to go brush up on that again.
So Charlie, my understanding about eustress and eustress for any kind of stress is that the same chemicals gets dumped into the body no matter what kind of stress it is. It's our brain that determines whether or not it's negative, positive, or neutral.
Well, you know, I'm not sure the exact same chemical gets dumped. I think if you're having chronic stress, I guess I want to play a little video for you by McGonigal, and she's going to tell you about how your thought process determines whether the stress is going to make you sick or whether it's going to make you well. So let me play that next, and then I'm going to go get my book while I'm playing it and see what they have to say about your specific request here. So here we go, back to share. And we're gonna, what am I gonna do with this? I'm gonna decrease this if I can. Hey, how am I getting rid of this? Why can't I get rid of this? Huh. I don't know what that more stuff is. I don't want to stop the recording. Want to escape out of here. Okay, there we go. And then Kelly McGonigal. And it's how to make stress your friend. Let's do this as an important one.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this: I'm a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. You can see why this study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad for your health. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now that you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're going to all do this together. It's going to be fun. For me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You're going to do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That guy made a mistake. We're going to have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? So you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. and participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance. Well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said you'd had a lot of stress in the last year, we could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this talk, and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge. And when you view stress in that way, your body believes you, and your stress response becomes healthier. Now, I said I have over a decade of demonizing stress to redeem myself from. So we are going to do one more intervention. I want to tell you about one of the most underappreciated aspects of the stress response. And the idea is this: stress makes you social. To understand this side of stress, we need to talk about a hormone, oxytocin. And I know oxytocin has already gotten as much hype as a hormone can get. It even has its own cute nickname, the cuddle hormone, because it's released when you hug someone. But this is a very small part of what oxytocin is involved in. Oxytocin is a neurohormone. It fine-tunes your brain's social instincts. It primes you to do things that strengthen close relationships. Oxytocin makes you crave physical contact with your friends and family. It enhances your empathy. It even makes you more willing to help and support the people you care about. Some people have even suggested we should snort oxytocin to become more compassionate and caring. But here's what most people don't understand about oxytocin. It's a stress hormone. Your pituitary gland pumps this stuff out as part of the stress response. It's as much a part of your stress response as the adrenaline that makes your heart pound. And when oxytocin is released in the stress response, it is motivating you to seek support. Your biological stress response is nudging you to tell someone how you feel instead of bottling it up. Your stress response wants to make sure you notice when someone else in your life is struggling so that you can support each other. When life is difficult, your stress response wants you to be surrounded by people who care about you. Okay, so how is knowing this side of stress going to make you healthier? Well, oxytocin doesn't only act on your brain, it also acts on your body. And one of its main roles in your body is to protect your cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also helps your blood vessels stay relaxed during stress. But my favorite effect on the body is actually on the heart. Your heart has receptors for this hormone. And oxytocin helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This stress hormone strengthens your heart. And the cool thing is that all of these physical benefits of oxytocin are enhanced by social contact and social support. So when you reach out to others under stress, either to seek support or to help someone else, you release more of this hormone, your stress response becomes healthier, and you actually recover faster from stress. I find this amazing that your stress response has a built-in mechanism for stress resilience. And that mechanism is human connection. I want to finish by telling you about one more study. And listen up, because this study could also save a life. This study tracked about 1,000 adults in the United States, and they ranged in age from 34 to 93. And they started the study by asking, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, how much time have you spent helping out friends, neighbors, people in your community? And then they used public records for the next 5 years to find out who died. Okay, so the bad news first. For every major stressful life experience, like financial difficulties or family crisis, that increased the risk of dying by 30%. But, and I hope you are expecting a but by now, but that wasn't true for everyone. People who spent time caring for others showed absolutely no stress-related increase in dying, 0. Caring created resilience. And so we see once again that the harmful effects of stress on your health are not inevitable. How you think and how you act can transform your experience of stress. When you choose to view your stress response as helpful, you create the biology of courage. And when you choose to connect with others under stress, you can create resilience. Now, I wouldn't necessarily ask for more stressful experiences in my life, but this science has given me a whole new appreciation for stress. Stress gives us access to our hearts. The compassionate heart that finds joy and meaning in connecting with others. And yes, your pounding physical heart working so hard to give you strength and energy. And when you choose to view stress in this way, you're not just getting better at stress, you're actually making a pretty profound statement. You're saying that you can trust yourself to handle life's challenges. And you're remembering that you don't have to face them alone. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, this is kind of amazing what you're telling us. It seems amazing to me that a belief about stress can make so much difference to someone's life expectancy. How would that extend to advice? Like if someone's making a lifestyle choice between, say, a stressful job and a non-stressful job, does it matter that which way they go, that it's equally wise to go for the stressful job so long as you believe that you can handle it in some sense?
Yeah, and one thing we know for certain is that chasing meaning is better for your health than trying to avoid discomfort. And so I would say that's really the best way to make decisions, is go after what it is that creates meaning in your life and then trust yourself to handle the stress that follows.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay. So, we spent a few minutes talking about the problems with stress, and now we've just kind of thrown the bomb in the room that says, wait a second, maybe we're thinking about this in the wrong way. Did any of you, have you seen this video before? Have you given it any thought about how you deal with stress? And has this video potentially given you food for thought about how you think about your own stress? Yeah, Trouty.
Yeah, it's interesting. My mom was a very outgoing person, and she liked people, and she got into all kinds of things, like a housewife. She was the manager for the money and all the different things, and she just knew people and talked with people, and she really craved people. And she got to be 93 Now, my dad was an introvert. He would just stick around the family and that was it. He had a lot of stress in his life. He only got to be 76. Now, I take a little bit more like my mom. I crave people. And to me, I'm already 84. So, yeah, and I hope to be 93 or more. So,
Very
yeah,
good.
it is very interesting what you make out of it. If you're a person that doesn't like people, your life can be short. So people make you look better, make you feel better. But you
Thanks
gotta
for-
have the right people too.
Thanks for sharing that. Scott, did you want to show how to access that video to the group? Because some of the
Sure.
people may want to look at that again. And it's on the website, as you can see.
Yeah, so
You
here's
go
the
to livelifestylemedicine.com.
yeah. And before I'll show the video, then I'll show the books, because Charlie, the rest of today and next week and the week after, he's going to be talking about some of the books. But if you go to the class website and click on videos, and you just scroll right here, it's like one of the ones at the top, how to make stress your friend. So it's the full one there. And this was part of what I showed last week too, was the willpower instinct was related to the behavior change from last week. But the one we just watched was part of this particular video here. So you can watch it here on the website. And then I'll just really, since I'm on the website, I'll go ahead and quickly go to the resources page and click on books. And here's here's some of the books for mind and health. So pretty much this today and next week and the following week, these are some of the books that Charlie's going to be referring to: Mayo Clinic Stress-Free Guide to Stress-Free Living, Awakening the Giant with Tony Robbins, Talking to Yourself, Full Catastrophe Living, The 5 Love Languages, and then there's some of the ones I talked about last week: The Craving Mind, Pleasure Trap, Good Habits, Bad Habits, Food Junkies. That was last week, but yeah, Charlie will be talking about these few books right here for the next couple of weeks, so you can have access to those.
Thanks for sharing that, Scott.
Yeah.
Getting back to the eustress, new stress. Eustress is good stress, such as motivating or inspiring situation. New stress is neutral stress, or neutral, or any information perceived as inconsequential, and distress is the bad stress, which doesn't have to be bad if you train your thoughts that it can be good. Candace.
Going along with what they said, when I was in my 20s, I went through some pretty traumatic things and had a lot of stress and ended up with panic attacks, which is the extreme version of a stress reaction. And what really helped me was I learned to do visualization. So if I'm at the doctor's now or a dentist and I know it's going to be painful, I visualize myself sitting on a beach somewhere, just take my mind out of the situation. And I know a lot of athletes, they do visualization like before a race, which is, a very stressful thing to, rev your energy up to get ready for race, but visualizing, they spend hours visualizing themselves running the race well, winning, giving all their energy. So I think that really helps slow down some of the effects that you could get for your health from stress by using some techniques to reduce that flight or fight adrenaline rush that you get.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? I'm kind of looking around the room to see if there is anyone else in the gallery who wants to chime in a bit.
I had a question.
Alice, go ahead.
I'll wait. Cindy, oh, okay. Well, I just going back to earlier, how we approach everything. There was a study by the Rand Corporation that how people perceived their health didn't matter how sick they were, but how well they thought they were was the biggest predictor of their health. So it didn't matter like you know, what their A1C was, if they thought they were okay, they actually did better. So just to go, you know, what along with what you were saying.
It kind of upends what our training has been in the medical profession, pretty much, that it is a different way of looking at things, and really stops us in our tracks to think about helping patients look at stress in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Alice. Okay, anybody else?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead, Cindy.
So in the PowerPoint that you did just a little earlier, I think I heard you say that stress can affect abdominal fat.
Yes.
Okay, so one question is, I don't understand that, like how? And then the other part is then, so given all that we're talking about now with like kind of reframing our minds about stress, can you?
So if
solution there?
if we think that stress is going to do us in, we're probably going to have more inflammation. And that inflammation is going to lead to the abdominal deposition of fat in the abdomen and the other kind of issues. If we're thinking about stress as being helpful to us, we might not have those same effects. And that's why I was hemming and hawing a bit about the question, are the exact same hormones dumped in with good and bad stress? And it seems to me there would be some different combination to allow for different effects.
Raise your hand.
And I'm not sure what they are.
Well, basically more oxytocin if you're connected and developing resilience with stress. Oxytocin is going to protect your health, and then as far as the insulin or the abdominal fat, so there's more cortisol. So cortisol is a stress hormone that's kind of chronically elevated, and then you have, you know, cortisol not only causes more inflammation, then it hampers blood sugar regulation by promoting more insulin resistance, and we know that, you know, insulin resistance leads to more abdominal fat deposition, the visceral fat. So it's kind of all those things: chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, all those things all contribute to those things.
Listen.
Thanks.
It's me. I just wanted to make just quickly say I was listening to Sam Harris. I don't know if you're familiar with him, and he was kind of making the same point. It was like sort of familiar. He was saying like some of the same, like if you have, like, for example, if you have extreme joy, you know, there's certain things are going to happen in your body. You might, for example, breathe faster, or your heart may increase, your heart rate may increase, and certain things. And it's the same thing that's going to happen if you have stress. So it's the bodily processes are almost the same, he was saying. And so I can see how it's just how you perceive it yourself, how, you know, the same hormones or whatever are being thrown into your body, whether it's extreme joy or stress. So, some of it is really the same. And so it's just how you interpret it. That's what I got out of it.
Your thoughts about it. Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Now, you know, there are differing points of view and differing thought processes, and, you know, you'll take what you like and you'll think about it. I do want to share one more video. It's by, I think he's from Stanford, Sapolsky, about why zebras don't get ulcers.
Yeah.
And maybe some of you have seen this before. And if you haven't, It's kind of an interesting video. And so let me share my screen again and go to why zebras don't get ulcers.
If you're a normal mammal, what stress is about is 3 minutes of screaming terror on the savannah, after which it's either over with or you're over with.
For a few weeks every year or so, Sapolsky shifts his lab to a place more than 9,000 miles away, on the plains of the Masai Mara Reserve in Kenya, East Africa.
You live in a place like this, you're a baboon, and you only have to spend about 3 hours a day getting your calories. And if you only have to work 3 hours a day, you got 9 hours of free time every day to devote to making somebody else just miserable. They're not being stressed by lions chasing them all the time. They're being stressed by each other. They're being stressed by social and psychological tumult invented by their own species. They're a perfect model for westernized stress-related disease. Because what stress is about is somebody is very intent on eating you, or you are very intent on eating somebody, and there's an immediate crisis going on.
When you run for your life, basics are all that matter. Lungs work overtime to pump mammoth quantities of oxygen into the bloodstream. The heart races to pump that oxygen throughout the body, so muscles respond instantly.
You need your blood pressure up to deliver that energy. You need to turn off anything that's not essential. Growth, reproduction, you know, you're running for your life. This is no time to ovulate. Tissue repair, all that sort of thing. Do it later if there is a later.
When the zebra escapes, its stress response shuts down. But human beings can't seem to find their off switch.
We turn on the exact same stress response for purely psychological states, thinking about the ozone layer, the taxes coming up, mortality, 30-year mortgages. We turn on the same stress response, and the key difference there is we're not doing it for a real physiological reason, and we're doing it nonstop. After a while, the stress response is more damaging than the stressor itself, because the stressor is some psychological nonsense that you're falling for. No zebra on Earth running for its life would understand why fear of speaking in public would cause you to secrete the same hormones that it's doing at that point to save its life.
Okay. Any comments, thoughts from anyone? I don't think we have any zebras in the room. We do have a dog. At least a picture of a dog. So that brings us to, do we set ourselves up for extra stress? Go ahead, Alice.
Well, it's just, a lot of times after an animal gets through their stress, then they sort of shake, and then they're done. And, that's another way for us to maybe relieve stress and let it go, is like to shake it off. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's, exercise is one way of shaking off stress. There are multiple other things that we can use. Breathing techniques, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, connecting with nature, playing a musical instrument, singing, creating art, dancing, community things like volunteering for meaningful causes, quality time with family and friends, spiritual or religious activities, reading self-help books and websites, massage. I've never had a massage, but a lot of people think that it's great. Stress reliever, listening to music, and light therapy using blue light or medical grade light boxes. I've never done that either. I don't know if anybody has experience with that. A lot of options, but maybe you don't need as many options with this stress if you look at it in the right way and if you devote some of your day to helping others, connecting with others. We have a few more minutes and I'll carry on, but I just want to make sure that there aren't any questions from anybody or anyone want to give any more thoughts to what we've been talking about. We have all next week and we've got plenty of things to talk about on this similar topic, and specifically next week we'll be spending more time with actual foods, perhaps, that are helpful and how it affects our health. I'm just kind of glancing about the room here to see if there's anybody else who is interested. I see a hand, Candace.
I just wondered if any studies have been done on the similarity of the kind of stress we're talking about and the stress that a lot of younger people are feeling with the internet and the social media and the negativity that can be around that with the bullying. Is it create the same sort of stress, or is it a little different psychologically? Maybe Alice might have some answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know, Alice, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I see everybody on their phone. Nobody's talking. And I think it's very isolating. The studies and the surveys say that the stress and depression in kids is way up and the bullying. But I also think it's so addictive and so manipulative that even though I keep reading like, oh yeah, get off your social media, I see people using it more and less able to get away from it. So that's my personal observation.
It's highly addicting.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But again, if we maybe engage those kids in community service somehow through, I don't know, AmeriCorps or some kind of other activities that connect human beings helping each other, maybe that addiction may be reduced somewhat. I don't know. I don't know that there are any studies on it.
So my daughter is here. She's home on spring break. She's a student, and I asked her to join us, and she says that people have always been addicted, and folks our age, that we had cigarettes and now they have social media. I don't know.
That's really a pretty good thought, actually. Cigarettes were the problem of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and now food and screens are the addiction of this century. So good thoughts, daughter. Glad that you were able to make it. Trouty.
The screen to me does not equal to the contact with people. I love people very much, but the screen does not do enough at all. No. Yeah. I crave people, and I am happy when I'm with people. Of course, not the grouches, and they have their own problems, but to me, this is recreation. I enjoy it. And I think the screen would not work for me and the phone not either. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, you've grown up with different experiences where the people for the last 3 years with the pandemic, they've been kind of confined to their rooms and their screens and haven't really had an opportunity. So the generation living under these times is going to have different thoughts about that, perhaps.
Well, I had to live by myself, and with the COVID situation, it had to be on the screen, but it was not satisfying enough. It's very different.
Yeah.
So
So if anyone has something else, you can chime in. I just want to kind of get started on how we might set ourselves up for stress. And this goes to one of the books that Scott just showed us. It's Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And I learned from him, that was one of the first books that I read when I was kind of studying about this, starting about 10 years ago, about your thoughts being positive or negative. And that your thoughts can be the main determinant of what your emotions are. And how we talk to ourselves determines our emotions. So a number of us may talk to ourselves like our parents or our fellow students talk to us. You're stupid. How could you do that? You're not worthy. Some of us are lucky enough to have had some positive strokes about how we can do what we choose to do in this world. And we're lucky if we get that background, but how you talk to yourself can really make a difference as to whether your thoughts are positive or negative. And there's another good book of Talking to Yourself by Pamela Butler. And back to Tony Robbins, he says the kind of questions we ask ourselves are really what can be so important in making or breaking our day and our life. And he recommends asking yourself these questions. What in my life am I thankful for? What in my life am I truly excited about? And what can I do to make someone else feel good? And, I take those words pretty seriously now. I like to be grateful and thankful for a number of things. And before I get out of bed in the morning, I follow Amit Sood's advice. He's the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living. To think about 5 or 6 things or people that you're grateful for before you ever get out of bed in the morning and start your day out right. So again, what are you thankful for? What in my life am I excited about? And what can I do to make someone else feel good? The other kind of questions that Tony Robbins says that may be helpful are, what about that makes me happy? How does it make me feel? What did I learn today? As opposed to asking yourself questions like, why me? Or why do I have to suffer like this? And he talks about the beliefs that you have influence your habits. And these beliefs are often developed by your family, society, and rarely do we take the time to evaluate what we actually believe. And and that brings us to values, what we consider important guiding messages by which we live our lives. So our values and our beliefs kind of come together, and then there are the rules of the game, how we actually play the game of life. And one of the things that resonated with me is when he talked about you can make rules in your life that are empowering, or you can make them disempowering. So to make empowering rules about love, it would be something like this. I feel love when I give love versus I feel love when someone loves me. So which of these is empowering and which is disempowering? The other thing I talk to the students about is you can have empowering rules. When I learn the material, I mean, I'm successful versus when I get an A, I'm successful. You may not have control over whether you get an A, but you have control about learning the material. And so that's the rule that you can use your thought process to help you becoming empowered and successful. We're going to be going into Amit Sood next week, but I don't like to talk the last 5 minutes of a class. So we're going to go back and view the room and see what your thoughts are, what we should cover next week, what, if you have any last comments you'd like to make or any questions that you might have. Trouty?
Yeah, the book, Talking to Yourself, is by whom? Who's the author?
So that's Pamela Butler, Butler. It's on the website, and you can just go to Scott showed you.
Yeah, good.
Pamela Butler.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else care to chime in? If not, we've had fun talking with you and sharing some ideas, hopefully expanding your mind, knowing that we're all still learning, you know, and we can have fun with this as we learn. We try not to get too serious about it, but those of us who are caring for other people, we do take it seriously as to how should we be counseling our patients and advising them. And when I listened to the video from Kelly McGonigal, it kind of upended my world a little bit. Back about, I don't know, 8 years ago, I can't remember exactly when I ran into her. But she's pretty inspiring. All right, everybody. Scott, do you have any last words or anything coming up or whatever?
No, just keep, if you're not on the class email list, sign up for the class newsletter at the top of the Live Lifestyle Medicine website, and also check out the Eugene Plant-Based Provider website for all the upcoming events, the YMCA classes, all the resources that are available if you're not familiar with all those.
And I want to make it clear again to the new members, for anybody, even though we didn't talk about food tonight, some of you may be struggling with what your food choices are, to feel free to give us a call, send us an email, and we will talk with you. It's free. You know, the price is right. Doesn't cost you anything. And you just send a little email to KatanyaRoss@msn.com, or you could give us a call perhaps, but I'm not sure where that email is. I don't think it's online.
Yeah, your email's on our class website under About Us, has you and I's profile, and Dr.
Okay.
Colgrove's profile has the email on there.
Yeah, so you could go to the About Us, and if we don't have the time to spend with you, we'll find a med student who will share some time with you and get back with us, consult, and they'll learn and you'll learn, and it's valuable for everybody. And again, the cost is right. It's nothing. We want to be able to support your transition, not only through food, but through how you move throughout the week, the chemicals you choose or choose to avoid, how you deal with stress, and how you're sleeping and your social context, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. We try to keep coming back to all of them, not maybe all at the same class or all at the same time in a visit, but we really want to focus our attention in those areas. It's been great fun. Hope to see you all
Right.
again.
Great class.
Thank
All right,
you.
see you guys
This was
next week.
awesome.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Continued.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So I'm going to get off of here.
Okay.